My name is Eliza Carr, and for most of my life I was invisible in my own home. The more I gave, the more they ignored me, until the day they forgot my graduation and posted "Congrats, Maddie" instead. But I'm not the quiet one anymore, and they're about to learn that silence doesn't mean surrender. Where are you watching this video from? Drop your city or country in the comments. I love seeing how far these stories reach. Now let me take you back to the living room where it all began. The Carr family living room in Raleigh, North Carolina, was a patchwork of loud rugs, faded cushions, and stacked mail no one ever sorted. It had that smell, lemon-scented polish barely covering old carpet must, and tonight it smelled like tension. I was 22, home from college for spring break and already regretting it. "I finished my ecosystem board," Madison announced, proudly holding up a flimsy trifold project with pictures of frogs and a droopy cotton ball cloud. "Mrs. Fuller said it's the best in class." Our parents, Karen and Dale, clapped like she'd cured something. My mother even took a photo. "You always were our creative one, honey," she beamed. I stared at the poster. I'd made that exact same project for her 5 years ago when she was in 4th grade, except mine had actual research and water cycles that lit up. Not that anyone cared back then. They'd tossed it in the recycling bin before the glue even dried. "Madison," I said, unable to bite my tongue any longer, "you didn't make that on your own. I literally did your entire science portfolio when you were in middle school." Everyone paused. "I used to do all your homework," I added, voice rising just enough. "Yours, Chloe S., even the essays for Dad's online class, and none of you ever said thank you." Madison rolled her eyes, flopping on the couch like I'd ruined her birthday. "Why do you always have to bring up the past?" Karen didn't even look up from her phone. "You were always just more responsible." There it was, that word again, the branding I never asked for. Responsible, not loved, not praised, just expected to clean up, shut up, and be proud when someone else got the spotlight I built for them. "That's not an excuse," I snapped. "It's a pattern." My father shifted in his recliner, pretending to read the sports section. "Eliza, you're getting worked up again." "Worked up?" I laughed bitterly. "Madison plagiarizes a poster and gets a standing ovation. I graduate summa cum laude and get, what? A "don't forget to feed the dog before you leave." Dale rustled the paper louder. Chloe, the youngest, stared at the floor like it had answers. But Karen finally set her phone down. "Eliza, we're not trying to compete with your achievements. You've always been self-sufficient. That's a good thing." "Is it?" My voice cracked, betrayal leaking through. "Because sometimes it feels like a punishment." The room was silent, not because they understood, but because no one wanted to admit they made me feel this way. That they let my sacrifices become expectations and my victories disappear in Madison's shadow. Madison crossed her arms. "You always make things dramatic." "No," I said softly, gathering my purse. "I just finally stopped pretending it doesn't hurt." I left before the tears could betray me. No one followed, not even Chloe. On the porch, I took a deep breath of cold air. The stars looked so indifferent above our sagging roof. And for the first time, I realized, if I wanted to feel seen, I'd have to stop begging for it in this house. I wasn't going to keep being the background character in my own life. And that decision, that moment, it changed everything. UNC Chapel Hill didn't feel like a college. It felt like a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. The campus buzzed with possibility, with coffee-scented late nights and voices echoing from open windows. I could walk from my dorm to the science building without hearing Madison's name once. No one here knew I was the responsible one. I was just Eliza, and for the first time, that was enough. It happened gradually, this unwrapping of myself. A professor pulled me aside after class to compliment my research paper. A classmate asked me to study together and actually meant it. Then, in my sophomore year, I joined a campus startup focused on sustainable materials. A quirky group of dreamers who believed compostable plastic and late-night brainstorming sessions could change the world. Ryan Winters was one of the co-founders, a wiry redhead with a quick grin and a mind that never slowed down. He noticed my attention to detail right away. "You organize chaos," he said after I restructured their investor pitch. "We need that. We need you." The words hit deeper than he could have known. Our team worked out of a dusty corner in the Student Innovation Lab, powered by leftover bagels and ambition. I wrote grants, streamlined supply chains, and found beauty in spreadsheets. They called me the engine. For once, the weight I carried didn't go unnoticed. It was admired. We had a tradition on Friday nights. A cheap pizza run, mismatched chairs pulled into a circle, music that kept skipping because no one remembered to charge the speaker. And laughter, so much laughter. It was on one of those nights, after our startup had secured its first round of seed funding from a local angel investor, that Ryan raised a red Solo cup like it was crystal. "To Eliza," he said, locking eyes with me. "The reason this thing's still standing." Everyone echoed it. "To Eliza," someone squeezed my shoulder. Another hugged me sideways, nearly knocking over my drink, and I just stood there, stunned, floating. Because in that moment, I wasn't the forgotten child or the backup planner. I was the hero of my own story. I blinked back tears as I laughed. "You guys are going to give me a big head." "You deserve one," said Maya, our marketing lead. "You're brilliant." No sarcasm, no undertone, just kindness. I wanted to bottle the feeling, the warmth, the ease. I called my mom later that night, not because I expected much, but because some part of me still believed she'd be proud. "Hey," I said. "Our startup just secured $25,000 in funding. My name S on the proposal." There was a pause, then, "That's nice, Eliza. Just make sure you don't get distracted from your classes." My throat tightened. "I'm not. My GPA is still a 3.9. "Well, good. You've always been focused." Click. Another box checked. Nothing more. I hung up quietly. Ryan found me sitting alone in the hallway outside the dorms, my phone still in my lap. "You okay?" he asked, settling beside me. "Yeah, just family stuff." He nodded like he knew without needing to ask. "They don't see you yet, do they?" "No," I whispered, "but I'm starting to see myself." We sat there for a long time, watching the moon thread through the branches. No one asked me to fix anything. No one expected me to hold everything together. They just let me be. And for the first time in years, that was more than enough. There's a moment, just before something goes viral, where you still think it's just your little secret. For us, it started with a tweet. A blurry photo of our team testing biodegradable food packaging in the quad with the caption, "UNC students turning compost into cash. Gen Z saves the planet again." We laughed about it, toasted with gas station slushies, and went to bed like it was any other Wednesday. By Friday, we had 12,000 retweets. Local news called. Campus influencers started tagging us in stories. The university president even reposted our press release with the caption, "Innovation is alive at Chapel Hill." Suddenly, people were watching. By the following week, we were being invited to pitch at Green Tech Expos, and professors started stopping me in the halls. "You're Eliza Carr, right? The operations brain behind BioBright." That phrase, behind, used to sting. At home, being behind meant being overlooked. In this world, behind meant trusted. Integral, the one holding the strings and making the thing dance. To celebrate, Ryan organized a bonfire at Jordan Lake. We piled into 3 borrowed cars, drove out past the city lights, and set up on the sand with pizza boxes and a half-working Bluetooth speaker. The sky was velvet black, stars freckling the darkness. Someone brought marshmallows. Someone else brought champagne. Maya snapped a photo of me holding a sparkler, laughing so hard I was doubled over. "You need to post this," she said. "You look like you belong in a movie." Maybe I did. When the fire settled into a soft amber glow and the others began breaking into small, sleepy conversations, I found myself sitting shoulder to shoulder with Ryan at the edge of the lake, our knees just barely touching. "Hey," he said quietly, "you okay?" I nodded, then hesitated. "Actually, I wanted to ask you something." He tilted his head, smiling. "Ask away." I picked at a blade of grass. "Graduation's in 3 weeks. And I know it's kind of a hike from here, but would you come? I mean, all of you, I'd really love to have you there." Ryan looked genuinely taken aback. "Eliza, of course, will come." I let out a breath I didn't realize I was holding. "You've all meant more to me than I can say," I added, my voice almost a whisper. He didn't laugh. He didn't tease. He just placed a hand on mine and squeezed gently. "We'll be there, in full force. Signs, banners, the whole deal. You've carried all of us. It's time we carry you." That line stayed with me all night. It stayed as I climbed into the back seat for the ride home, warm and drowsy from sugar and smoke. It stayed as I stared out the window at the lights flashing past, farmhouses, long stretches of nothing, the sleeping city. It stayed even when I thought of my family. I hadn't even told them the date of my graduation yet. Part of me still clung to the hope that if I gave them one more chance, just one, they might show up. That maybe, finally, they'd surprise me. So I drafted the message, "Hi everyone, just wanted to let you know graduation is May 13th at 10 a.m. Would love to see you there. Let me know if you can make it. Love, Eliza." I stared at it, reread it 3 times, then hit send. And I waited, 1 minute, 5, an hour, nothing, not even a thumbs up. Back at my dorm, I pulled the covers over my head and stared at the ceiling. I told myself it didn't matter. I had my people now, people who saw me, valued me. But deep down, there was still that little girl inside me, standing at a middle school science fair table, waiting for her parents to notice the project she stayed up all night making, only to hear them say, "Can you help Maddie glue hers instead?" I was tired of begging to be seen, but I wasn't giving up hope, not yet, not this time. That night, I dreamt I was standing on the graduation stage alone, microphone in hand, scanning the crowd for familiar faces. And just before I gave up, they arrived. Graduation morning arrived with a sky so blue it felt like a promise. I stood in front of my full-length mirror in a tiny off-campus rental, adjusting my cap for the 15th time. The gown felt stiff and unfamiliar, like it belonged to someone else. I smoothed it down anyway. Today, I had earned this. My phone buzzed, another message from Maya. "We're on our way. Ryan made posters. Brace yourself." A smile tugged at the corner of my mouth. I told them not to go overboard. I should have known better. Still, I checked my phone again for the messages that weren't coming. No text from my mom, no "proud of you" from my dad, no last-minute "save us a seat" from Maddie or Chloe. The stadium was already buzzing when I arrived. Families filled the bleachers with homemade signs, air horns, matching t-shirts with faces of smiling graduates. Mothers wiped away tears. Fathers clutched cameras. Whole sections roared when names were called. I scanned the rows I'd reserved for my family. Empty. 5 perfectly lined-up seats, not a single person in them. I swallowed hard and turned my gaze back toward the stage. "Focus, Eliza, just get through it." The names echoed one by one, slowly inching closer to mine. "Eliza Carr." That's when it happened. From the far side of the bleachers, a roar went up. It started with Maya shouting like a sports fan, and then Ryan waving a glittered sign that read, "Carr White us all." Laughter burst from me before I even realized I was crying. The rest of our team followed. Miles with a cardboard cutout of my face, Jenny holding a giant green heart. Someone even blasted a confetti cannon. Where they got that, I still don't know. It was ridiculous. It was over the top. It was perfect. I walked across the stage to cheers that drowned out the announcer, my face wet with tears and joy. When I looked into the crowd, there wasn't a trace of my family. But I didn't need to search anymore because they had come, because someone had shown up. As the ceremony ended, I pushed through the crowd toward them. Ryan met me first, lifting me off the ground in a tight hug. "You did it," he whispered in my ear. "And we were here, just like we said." "You have no idea what this means to me," I choked out. He pulled back and looked straight at me. "Actually, I do." Maya looped her arm through mine. "You're not going back to that empty house, are you?" I shook my head. "No, not today." We went straight to brunch. Not a fancy reservation or anything, just a greasy spoon diner with bottomless hash browns and a waitress who called everyone Sweet Pea. We toasted with orange juice and wiped tears with scratchy napkins. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't holding my breath waiting to be forgotten. I wasn't hoping someone would suddenly realize my worth. I was simply loved. Afterward, I sat on the steps of my place, my diploma in my lap, watching the sunlight shift through the trees. The phone in my hand stayed silent. No apology, no explanation, no accidental "congrats, Eliza" text meant for Maddie, just silence. And yet I felt full, not because I didn't care anymore, but because I finally had people who showed up for me not out of obligation, not because I filled some role or cleaned up some mess, but because they saw me, because I mattered. That evening, Maya posted a photo from the stadium, me mid-laugh, surrounded by people who held up signs with my name. Her caption read, "To the girl who always carried others, today we carried you. Proud doesn't begin to cover it." The likes poured in. Friends, professors, classmates, people I barely knew. But my favorite comment came from Ryan. "We were here, always." And in that moment, I knew something had shifted. Not in them, in me. I wasn't invisible anymore. I wasn't optional. I was chosen. And for the first time, I believed I deserved to be. That night, the house was quiet. My gown hung on the closet door, still dusted with bits of confetti. My diploma lay on the desk like a love letter from the universe, proof that I hadn't imagined the journey, that I'd really done it. And for the first time in years, I wasn't afraid to be alone. I lit a candle, poured a glass of champagne, cheap, celebratory, and curled up under my favorite blanket. My face still hurt from smiling. I kept replaying the moment Ryan hugged me after the ceremony, how tightly he held me like he was anchoring me to this world where I mattered. My phone buzzed on the cushion beside me. I glanced at the screen. Instagram. Maya had tagged me in a story, a blurry video of our table at brunch, everyone singing some off-key version of Pomp and Circumstance while I laughed until I cried. I reposted it with a grateful heart. Then I made the mistake of opening the main feed. I wish I hadn't. There it was. A photo, front and center, posted by my mother. Our backyard, sunny and green. Plastic tables draped in gingham. A grill smoking in the background. My dad flipping burgers, Chloe holding a drink, and Madison front and center in a new sundress. The caption read, "Family time is the best time. So proud of our girl, graduation yellow, congrats Maddie." Beneath that, a sheet cake with buttercream frosting. The words piped in pink, "We love you, Maddie, class of 2025. My chest went still. I stared at the screen as if looking longer might make it disappear. It didn't. They hadn't forgotten my graduation. They had chosen to celebrate her instead. On the same day, at the same time. There were no missed calls, no apologetic texts. Not even a passive-aggressive, "wish we could be there" message. Just burgers and smiles and balloons for my little sister who hadn't even graduated yet. I enlarged the photo. Karen wore the same earrings she had at my high school ceremony. The one where she told me, "Don't expect us to clap too loud, Maddie might get jealous." Chloe had painted her nails, something she never did unless it was for a party. They had planned this. And while I stood on that stage, scanning the crowd for faces that never appeared, while my friends screamed my name and carried signs, my own family was eating cake. My thumb hovered over the screen. For a second, I considered commenting something. Anything. But what would I say? "Hey, just curious, did you forget I graduated today?" No, they hadn't forgotten. They just didn't care. Not enough, anyway. I set the phone down. My heart didn't just hurt, it cracked. Not with the fresh pain of surprise, but with the ache of realization. This wasn't new. This was just the most obvious it had ever been. I'd spent years being the glue, the fixer, the silent achiever in the background while everyone else got the spotlight. I had told myself it didn't matter. That love meant accepting people even when they disappointed you. But this wasn't disappointment. This was dismissal. I thought back to every time I'd picked Maddie up from practice, helped Chloe with homework, cleaned the house because Mom was too tired, filled in for Dad's forgotten errands. I remembered patching holes no one thanked me for, being told I was too sensitive when I asked for recognition. And now I was an afterthought to their barbecue. My champagne had gone warm in my hand. I set it down and stood up slowly, like I was rising from a dream I didn't want to finish. I walked to the mirror, still wearing the earrings Maya gave me. I looked at the girl who had crossed that stage alone, lifted by friends, not family. That girl deserved better. That girl deserved everything. I picked up my phone again, not to scroll, not to beg, not to call, but to post. I opened the camera and walked outside to the driveway, where my new car gleamed under the porch light. My first real splurge, a luxury hybrid I'd been saving for since junior year. I leaned against it, adjusted the angle, and took the shot. The caption came easily, each word carved from a place between anger and liberation. "Gift to myself, picked it up today to take my family to graduation. Guess I drove alone." I hit post, then turned off my phone, And for the first time in my life, I didn't cry, not because it didn't hurt, but because the pain finally had a name, and I wasn't going to carry it in silence anymore. My phone was still face down when the sunlight hit my bedroom floor the next morning. I didn't want to look at it. I didn't want to feel anything. But curiosity is a strange kind of ache. I reached for it slowly, the way someone might handle an object that had exploded once before. 112 notifications, messages, missed calls, DMs, tags. I opened Instagram first. My photo had taken on a life of its own, likes climbing by the minute, comments filled with heart emojis, supportive strangers, and a few confused classmates from high school. Girl, the caption, ouch. This hits way too close, proud of you. Nothing louder than a quiet call-out. And then, buried among the likes, a private message from Karen. Mom, we need to talk, honey. The smiley face was the most offensive part. Like she'd just asked if I wanted to grab brunch. Like I hadn't just called out in the most polite, public way, the years of being their second thought. Before I could even process it, my call log buzzed. 42 missed calls. Every single one from Madison. A wave of adrenaline passed through me, not fear, just stillness. A strange quiet inside me that made everything feel clearer. They noticed. Not when I graduated with honors, not when I emailed them my ceremony details, not even when my friends shouted my name from the bleachers while their seats sat empty. But now that I had pulled the lever, now that I had posted something they couldn't ignore, couldn't spin, couldn't privately sweep under the rug like a forgotten science project. I sat up, still in the same soft hoodie I'd worn to bed, and felt a kind of peace settle in. Not because they were reaching out, but because I wasn't waiting anymore. This wasn't a trap I'd fallen into, it was a step I had chosen. My phone buzzed again, another message from Madison. Eliza, please pick up, I didn't know, please just call me back. I stared at it for a long time. Didn't know that I graduated, that I invited them, that the most important day of my life didn't warrant even a text, or didn't know I would finally speak. Because that's what this was, wasn't it? The moment I stopped being useful and started being visible. And now it made them nervous. I opened my messages, not to reply, but to reread. A week ago, I'd sent the group chat my graduation details. It was still there, time-stamped. No replies, no confusion, just silence. They knew. They chose something else, the barbecue, the cake, the cheerfully filtered lies of family time. And now the calm I felt, it wasn't numbness. It was clarity. I didn't owe them a response. Not yet. Instead, I got dressed slowly, choosing a sleek black jumpsuit and pulling my curls into a high, effortless bun. I slid on my watch, graduation gift to myself, and stepped into heels that made me feel like a woman who didn't beg to be loved. I was done playing invisible. Later that afternoon, I opened my messages again, not to respond, but to document. I took screenshots of every missed call, every text, every crying face emoji from Madison, every please call me from Karen. Because deep down I knew this wasn't over, not really. There would be a follow-up. There would be a family meeting, a plea to smooth things over, but not before they saw me. Not before they felt what I had carried for years, the weight of absence, the ache of being forgotten by the very people who claimed to love you most. I was no longer the responsible one cleaning up messes behind the scenes. Now I was the one setting the stage. My inbox pinged again. A new text from Madison. Chloe's crying. Dad's furious. You really hurt, Mom. Just, please talk to us. I turned the phone off, not out of pettiness, out of power. Because for the first time, they weren't dictating the terms. And that silence, that choice to answer later or not at all, that was mine. The invitation came the way they always do in my family, through assumption, not request. No apology, no explanation, just a casual group text from Madison. Party at ours Saturday. Graduation early summer bash. Come hungry face blowing a kiss, I stared at the message like it was in another language. After everything, after their absence, after my post, after the hours of silence broken only by guilt-tripping texts, I was supposed to just show up, smile, pose for pictures with paper crowns and red Solo cups. But then I realized something. I wasn't being invited. I was being expected. expected to return quietly, to slip back into the responsible daughter role, to fold my feelings into neat napkin corners and serve them beside the potato salad. Except I was different now, and they were about to see how much. So I said yes. Saturday afternoon arrived warm and sticky, the kind of southern heat that clings to your skin and presses down on your lungs. I stood in front of my mirror, tucking a final strand of hair behind my ear. Power suit, tailored. Charcoal gray with white pinstripes. Sunglasses, oversized and unapologetic. Lips soft mauve, eyes sharp. And shoes, oh, the shoes, sleek nude heels that clicked like punctuation. I wasn't dressing to impress them. I was dressing to remind myself who I had become. The backyard buzzed with chatter as I walked through the side gate. Laughter, clinking glasses, music from a Bluetooth speaker tucked under the patio umbrella. Then silence. It spread like a ripple. Conversations faltered. Heads turned. Madison, in a coral sundress, froze mid-giggle. Chloe, sitting on the edge of the pool, nearly dropped her cup. And my father, Dale Carr, always the man behind the grill, actually stepped away from the burgers. "Eliza," he said, his voice laced with nervous delight. "Wow, you look amazing." I slid off my sunglasses slowly, letting the moment linger. Then I smiled, just enough to be polite. "Oh, now you can see me." The silence that followed was thick and real. A few partygoers glanced at each other. My mother blinked twice, clearly caught between pretending nothing was wrong and calculating what could be salvaged. I walked past her without stopping. Inside, the house was clean and decorated with dollar store banners. "Congrats, grad," slapped across the fireplace mantel. But none of them had my name. I wandered to the drink table, poured myself something fizzy, and leaned against the counter like I owned the room. Because for the first time, I did. Madison approached eventually, carefully. Her voice was sweet, too sweet. "Didn't know you were coming," she said with a tilt of her head. "You invited me," I replied evenly. "Well, yeah, I just didn't think. I mean," she stopped herself, smoothing invisible wrinkles from her dress. "You look different." "I am." Behind us, I heard Chloe whisper something to her friend. The word intimidating drifted through the air like perfume. My dad reappeared at my side, offering me a paper plate loaded with ribs and potato salad, like food might erase history. "Here, sweetheart, you must be starving." I looked at the plate, then back at him. "You skipped the most important day of my life," I said softly. "But sure, let's pretend ribs fix everything." He didn't answer. My mother hovered by the doorway, watching like a director trying to regain control of a scene gone off script. But the camera had already turned. This wasn't their stage anymore. It was mine. I stood taller, the hush around me thick with something none of them could name. And I let them feel it. Not rage, not sadness. Power. The air around the grill crackled with forced normalcy. Lawn chairs shifted. Jokes resumed, shallow and awkward. It was the Carr family's favorite coping mechanism. Pretend nothing happened and hope the weight of unspoken things would quietly dissolve in the humidity. My mother offered me coleslaw like she was passing a peace treaty. "Try this, Eliza. I use that pepper blend you like." I looked at the bowl, perfectly garnished, impressively irrelevant. "I don't need coleslaw," I said, my voice light but sharp. "I needed a family at my graduation." Her smile flickered, but she didn't drop it. "Don't be dramatic. We were planning a celebration for Maddie. It just overlapped." "You mean it replaced mine?" Dale cleared his throat from behind the grill. "We thought you'd understand." Understand. You thought I'd understand that you hosted a party with a congrats Maddie cake on the exact same day I graduated. He rubbed the back of his neck. "It was just bad timing." "No," I said, stepping forward now. "Bad timing is traffic. This was a choice." My words landed hard, and for a moment no one moved. Chloe looked like she wanted to disappear into the pool. Madison glanced at me wide-eyed. "It wasn't about you," she blurted. That broke me. I let out a bitter laugh. "It's never about me, is it? Not when I stayed up doing your homework. Not when I fixed Chloe's FAFSA because Mom didn't understand it. Not when I cleaned the house for every holiday while you all smiled for the pictures." Maddie's eyes filled with tears. "Stop. No, I will not stop," I snapped. "You all skipped the most important day of my life for this party, this poolside illusion of family." My mom's voice grew cold. "We didn't mean to hurt you." "But you did," I said, turning toward her. And you didn't apologize, you didn't even notice until I said it out loud where strangers could hear. Madison's bottom lip trembled. I didn't know you felt like this. No, Maddie, you didn't ask, I said, quieter now. You've never asked, you just took, everyone did. My dad stepped forward, holding a beer like it was a shield. This isn't the time or place. Then when, Dad? I turned on him. When do we talk about the fact that you only notice me when I disappear? Madison let out a sob and dropped her plate, barbecue sauce splattering on the grass. She stormed off across the yard, slamming the patio door behind her. A hush fell over the party again. My mother stared at the closed door, then turned to me, jaw clenched. Look what you've done. I met her gaze without flinching. No, look at what you've done. All I did was finally stop pretending it didn't matter. She opened her mouth like she wanted to argue, but nothing came out. Because for once there was no excuse big enough to cover the silence they had left me in. I could feel everyone watching. Some uncomfortable, others stunned. A few nodding silently like maybe, just maybe, they understood. I took a breath, slow and steady. I'm not here to ruin anything, I said softly. I came because you always expected me to smile and play along, but I'm done with that. And just like that, I stepped back. I didn't cry, not this time. I had cried enough in empty seats and unread texts. Now it was their turn to sit with the silence. The party had splintered. Laughter now sounded hollow. Conversations trailed off mid-sentence. The speakers still played top 40 hits, but no one was dancing. My father poked at the grill long after the last burger had been eaten, like he could scrape the silence off with a spatula. I slipped inside, needing a break from the watching eyes, the whispered guesses about whether I'd finally lost it. The hallway was cooler, dimmer. Carpet soft beneath my heels. The noise faded behind me like a memory. The patio door was slightly ajar, and I heard it before I saw it, soft, hiccuped crying. Out back, behind the pool, Madison sat alone on the edge of the deck, knees pulled to her chest, arms wrapped tight. Her mascara had surrendered to the tears, creating soft gray smudges beneath each eye. The sunset lit her hair like fire, but her face looked small, like a little girl again. I thought about walking past her, letting her sit in her hurt the way I had for years, but I didn't, because as much as I wanted her to feel the sting, I also knew what it was like to cry alone and have no one ask why, so I walked toward her slowly. She didn't look up. I didn't mean to ruin your party, I said gently. She sniffled. You didn't. Silence settled between us. I sat down beside her, not close enough to touch, just close enough to mean it. For a while, all we heard were cicadas. Then very softly, she said, I'm sorry. I waited. She looked at me, eyes red. I really didn't know. I thought you didn't need us. That hit something I wasn't prepared for, because wasn't that the story I'd been told my whole life, that I was the strong one, the dependable one, the one who didn't need the extra help, the attention, the applause. The truth was, I needed all of it. Just quietly. I needed you to say thank you back then, I said, my voice barely more than a whisper. I needed someone to notice the nights I stayed up doing your school projects or the mornings I made breakfast when Mom forgot. I needed someone to say, Eliza, we see you. Madison wiped her cheek with the back of her hand. I didn't see. I was a kid and I just thought. You liked doing it, that you were the adult in the room. I was the adult, I said, not with bitterness, but with truth. But I was still a kid too. I was still your sister. She nodded, fresh tears sliding silently down her cheeks. I think I envied you, she murmured. You always looked like you had it together, like you didn't need anyone, and I guess I built my whole identity around being the special one because it was the only space left. That surprised me, but also made a certain painful kind of sense. I didn't want to take your spotlight, I said. I just wanted one of my own. She looked at me then, really looked, like she was seeing me as a person for the first time. I want to make it up to you, she said, voice shaking. I don't know how, but I want to. I felt something loosen inside my chest. Not forgiveness, not yet, but the beginning of it. You can start by listening, I said, even when it's uncomfortable. I will, she promised, and I believed her. For the first time, I truly did. We sat in silence again, but this time it wasn't heavy. It was honest. And that was enough for now. That night something shifted, not just in me, but in Maddie too. We didn't plan it, not exactly. There wasn't a dramatic announcement or a rehearsed speech, just two sisters walking back inside, no longer willing to let silence be the family's default language. Can we talk? Madison said to the room, her voice steadier than I expected. All of us, outside, by the fire. Our parents blinked at her like she'd grown another head. But she didn't back down. Chloe trailed behind us reluctantly, arms crossed, the youngest in both age and avoidance. But even she didn't argue. The fire pit was already glowing, embers crackling low in the darkness. The cicadas had gone quiet now, replaced by the hum of summer stillness. We all sat down, me, Madison, Chloe, our mom, our dad. The same circle we'd gathered in 100 times before, but never like this. Madison cleared her throat. Her mascara was still smudged, but she didn't wipe it away this time. She wore it like proof of tears of truth. I need to say something, she began, and I need you to actually listen this time. Karen raised an eyebrow. Dale leaned forward like he was bracing for a storm. Madison looked straight at them. You praised us for doing the bare minimum, for showing up late and still getting a good job. But Eliza, she carried all of us every time, and we never said thank you, not once. The fire popped. I watched our mother's lips press into a line. I didn't realize how much we leaned on her until she wasn't leaning back anymore, Maddie continued, voice trembling. She packed our lunches. She cleaned our messes. She kept track of every birthday gift, every school project, every dentist appointment like it was her job. And it was yours. A beat passed. Then Chloe, quiet, skeptical Chloe, spoke. I never would have passed algebra without her, she said softly. She stayed up with me every night before finals, even when I was awful to her. I turned to her surprised. She wasn't looking at me, just at the fire, like confessing to the flames instead of us. She was the only real adult in the house half the time, Chloe added, almost as if admitting it to herself for the first time. My chest tightened, not from hurt, from recognition. They saw it now. Karen looked down at her hands, her perfectly manicured fingers now still. I thought, she began, faltering. I thought you were just strong. I am, I said quietly. But strength shouldn't be an excuse for neglect. Dale tried to speak, but the words stuck. He rubbed his face, then finally said, We didn't realize. You didn't want to realize, I said, no heat in my tone, just honesty. Because realizing would mean admitting you let me parent your kids while I was still trying to be one myself. No one argued. The silence that followed wasn't awkward, it was necessary. A mirror held up to years of imbalance. Maddie turned to me, tears in her eyes again. You deserved better, you still do. I nodded once. I'm not asking for guilt, I'm asking for change. For the first time in my life, they didn't deflect. They didn't minimize, they just sat with it. And sometimes that's where healing starts. Not with apologies, but with the truth spoken out loud, surrounded by firelight. The fire had settled into glowing coals, a slow burn of embers flickering like stars in the pit. No one moved. Not because they were frozen, but because they were finally listening. It was a silence I'd longed for my entire life. Not the kind that follows a slammed door or the kind that simmers after someone says, we'll talk later. This was a silence that asked for direction, a silence that left room for truth. I stood, my heels pressed into the soft earth, grounding me as every eye turned to me. My mother's weary, my father's hollow, my sister's wide and waiting. I've spent most of my life working for approval I was never going to get, I said, voice steady. I poured myself into this family, into keeping it running, into holding it together, because I thought maybe, just maybe, it would earn me something. No one interrupted. And for a long time, I continued, it earned me silence, shrugs. You were comfortable letting me be the engine that kept everyone else moving. I let the words settle. But here's the thing about engines, eventually they break down. Or they break free. My mother's chin lifted slightly, sensing the shift. Eliza, I held up a hand. Let me finish. She fell silent again. I'm building something now, I said. Not for you, not to prove anything, but for me. I've co-founded a sustainability startup with some of the best minds I've ever worked with. We're growing fast, we're hiring. Chloe's eyes flicked toward Maddie, confusion blooming. I turned to both of them. And I want you two on board. They blinked. I know your strengths. I've seen them even when you didn't see them in yourselves, I said. You're smart, you're capable, and I'm offering you something we all were denied, a space to grow without being overlooked. Chloe's hand flew to her mouth. Madison choked on a breath. But, I said, turning back to my parents, this isn't for everyone. My father straightened. What does that mean? It means, I said calmly, you don't get to be part of this, not this time. Karen's face stiffened like I'd slapped her. Dale narrowed his eyes. We're still your parents. You are, I agreed. But parenting me was a job you outsourced. And now that I'm offering real opportunities, real stakes, you don't get a seat just because of blood. I wasn't cruel, I wasn't yelling, but my voice didn't waver. I'm investing in people who believe in effort, people who show up, I said. Maddie and Chloe have, you didn't. My mother opened her mouth again, but nothing came out. Madison reached for my hand, shaky but firm. I want to be part of it, she said quietly. Not because you owe me anything, but because I want to earn it. Chloe nodded tearfully. Me too. I looked at them both and smiled. Good, then let's build something better. Behind me, our parents sat wordless, two people who had always assumed I'd come home when called, who had never imagined that the daughter they dismissed might one day stand before them not in need, but in power. And as I walked back toward the house, Maddie and Chloe beside me, I didn't look back, not out of anger, but because I finally knew which direction I was headed. Forward. The hum of the office felt different now, electric but calm, like the air just before rain. The glass walls gleamed, sunlight spilling across whiteboards scribbled with vision maps and launch deadlines. Coffee cups clinked in corners. A printer whirred somewhere near the back. I stood at the front entrance, clipboard in hand, heart steady. This wasn't school. This wasn't the Carr family home with its simmering silence and chore charts disguised as affection. This was mine. And today I was welcoming two new hires, both of whom carried my last name. I saw them before they saw me. Chloe clutched a messenger bag like a lifeline. Her sneakers squeaked slightly on the tile. She looked around wide-eyed, like a tourist stepping off a plane. Madison walked beside her, a touch more polished, heels, blazer, a flick of eyeliner, but I could see the nerves hiding in her smile. They paused at the front desk. Hi, Madison said to the receptionist, her voice soft. We're here for onboarding. I stepped into view. Right on time, I said. Their eyes lit up, Chloe with open relief, Madison with a hopeful grin. Come with me, I said, and they followed without hesitation. I led them past the shared workstations, past the standing desks and the plant wall that Maya insisted on watering herself, into the conference room where two neatly labeled folders waited. Their names typed, professionally, just like everyone else, because that's what they were now. Not sisters, not apologies, not loose ends, team members. I won't be your direct manager, I said as we sat. We have structure here, clear expectations, equal accountability. They both nodded almost too quickly. I smiled. That doesn't mean I'm not rooting for you. Chloe opened her folder like it was made of glass. I've never had a real job before. You have now, I said. Madison bit her lip. We're going to work hard. We want to earn this. You already are, I replied. There was a knock on the glass and Ryan stepped in. Khakis, coffee, confidence. Mind if I steal the boss for a second? He asked. I followed him to the hallway. She okay? He asked, glancing at Chloe through the glass. She's more than okay, I said. She just doesn't know it yet. He nodded, then smiled, warm and easy. You were always the best teacher. That stopped me, because no one had ever said that to me before. I'd always been the fixer, the helper, the one who did the work and vanished when the credit came. Now, I was the one handing out the folders. I looked through the glass again, at Maddie scribbling a note to herself, at Chloe adjusting her name badge like it was something precious. They were starting something new. So was I, and for once, we weren't tethered by guilt or duty. We were bound by belief, in each other, and in the possibility of something better. 2 years later, the lights were so bright I could barely see the crowd. But I didn't need to. I knew who was out there. The red circle beneath my heels felt solid, sacred. Teg's letters towered behind me, bold and unforgiving, just like the path that had brought me here. My palms were dry, my voice steady, and my heart full. I looked out across the sea of shadows and spotlights and breathed in the silence. Hi, I began, voice calm but strong. My name is Eliza Carr. Pause. And for most of my life, I thought love had to be earned. There was a ripple in the room, recognition. I thought if I did enough, helped enough, carried enough, eventually I'd be seen, celebrated, chosen. Another pause. My eyes scanned the crowd and landed on the front row. There they were, Chloe in a smart blazer I helped her pick out. Maddie, tearfully proud, her phone already recording. Two women who used to be my responsibility, now my allies. I smiled. But here's the thing no one tells the quiet overachievers, I continued. Sometimes the family you fight hardest to impress will never see you. Not because you're invisible, but because they've chosen not to look. A murmur of agreement passed through the room. I let it linger. And that's okay, I said, softer now. Because when you stop trying to earn love you've already given, you finally make space for the respect you deserve. I took a breath, the weight of those years lifting with each syllable. My story isn't about revenge, I said. It's about reclamation, reclaiming my worth, my voice, my seat at the table. Applause built, soft at first, then stronger. I built a company out of a dream and some recycled plastic, I said, laughter lacing the line. But more than that, I built a family out of truth, one where love isn't conditional on silence, one where showing up means everything. The applause grew. In the end, I said, eyes back on my sisters, they showed up. Madison wiped a tear from her cheek. Chloe smiled so wide her eyes disappeared. I closed with the words I needed to hear once, long ago, words that now belonged to everyone in that room. You are not too much. You are not hard to love. You were just giving your loyalty to the wrong audience. A standing ovation rose before the last word left my lips. I stepped back from the mic. And this time I wasn't alone. I didn't walk off stage searching for validation. I walked off into open arms.